picking on you.
You better make me work.
But now it's heartfelt. Go there, heartfelt. Just not. But I mean,
Thank you. Appreciate you.
we'll come back.
I now call the January 4th, 2022 Board of Commissioners work session to order. We have Chief Chet Barnwell and Finance Director Alicia Searcy to present a proposal to us for funding the unmanned stations of 17 and 18. Chief, you want to come forward?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us. So last month we learned that we did not receive the SAFER grant for the second year in a row. We were hoping that this grant would assist the county in opening up stations 17 and 18 using 12 firefighters. That's what the grant was going to pay for. They were going to be utilized open 17 and 18 located at Carroll and Tice Road and Jones Mill Road respectively. Due to some great financial decisions made by you guys and Ms. Alicia's oversight, we've been able to find a way to fully fund the 12 positions needed to open these two stations. Now, Ms. Searcy will be able to tell you better on how that's going to work, and then I'll tell you how we're going to get there.
Okay, so last year when we were working on the budget, we all agreed that funding these fire stations was important. And so what we had done is we had put one half the salaries in with the anticipation into the budget, and with the anticipation that those positions would be filled in January and we would have expenses from January to June. Another thing that we did to try to make sure that we would be able to do this because of the competitiveness of the SAFER grant was that we didn't do a full rollback on our millage rate. So our millage rate property tax billed, we're at $24,912,000. At 97% collections, that brings us to $24,165,000. Our budget was $23,750,000. So that gives us about about $415,000 in additional revenue that we will see this year because of not rolling the millage rate back. So we've got $415,000 in revenue, and then we budgeted $425,000, which was the 1/2 year, and then a full year of that would be $845,000 in wages to man those two stations for the whole year. So the difference between what we budgeted and what we need is $419,000, and we've got $415,000 of additional revenue. So we're short about $4,000 going into FY23. So as we work on the budget going forward for FY23, we'll have to come up with about $4,000 to cover these wages, but I think we can easily manage that. With the way sales tax revenues coming in this year, I think this will be easily done. So I think we can go ahead and start working on getting these stations manned.
Okay. So the next question is, when are we going to get them open? We are, in Carroll County Fire, we're going back to training our own. So we would have to hire them, get them trained, and then put them in stations. Now, in order for us to train them, we want to go to MPQ levels 1 and 2, which will be a higher train. That's where we want them because we do expect so much more of our firefighters on the line. So that training is 10 weeks long. My two goals that I set up when I was hired in November was fill vacancies, open stations. We are still filling vacancies. We're starting a recruit class in late January that's going to be 10 weeks long. We want to get that one finished, which gives us enough time to hire up the 12 people for these two stations and start that school late April, have them finished up mid-June, have those stations open in June, mid to late June is when we're going to open them. Is there any questions about that?
I'm just glad to hear. We met the other day, and
I know Commissioner Chance was there too, and it was great to hear from Alicia as well that this was in the immediate future, and my constituents will be glad, especially those in the Jones Mill area that go by there every day and say, nice station, but nobody's there. I am glad, though, that we did go ahead and get that rating down so that as far as their homeowners insurance, it won't affect that anymore. It's already down as much as it's going to go, but this is good news, and I'm glad that we also had the foresight to prepare for it in case we did not get the SAFER grant. So it's altogether, I'm glad for where we're at. So.
And I'd like to echo those comments, and it's hard to tell everything you know in a minute's worth here, but the reality is that the board reacted to the community at a time where insurance rates were going through the roof prior to my time being on the board, and there's many of you that were on the board at the time. And the way the state law is written, the brick and mortar facility being built in the moment is what alleviates those insurance premiums. And so I think the board immediately did what they could, because I've had a lot of questions of people say, well, why would you build a station and not immediately be prepared to put personnel in it? So while we would love to have had it before now, I don't think it's a lack of planning on our part. It was alleviating a situation in the moment, and the board and the chairman and staff has come together and now is bringing this to fruition. So I just think it's important for the community to understand. I don't know that we're really behind. It was alleviating a problem in the moment, and the board did that, and then we're moving forward from here. So I'm proud to see it opening as well. I know that the one particular station on Jones Mill Road will be able to service the backside of my constituents in Fairfield Plantation. So very happy to hear about the progress we're making.
Thank you both.
Okay.
Alicia, we'll call you back up to go over the financial recap, please.
We have the financials for November, and November is continuing to trend as the prior months have. We really got into the property tax collections in November as they were due December 1, so we saw a significant part of our property tax collections in that. That contributed to a year-to-date number of $33,597,000 in revenue compared to last November, $31,197,000. And our expenditures are running a little bit ahead of last year, but our budget's ahead of last year. We're 5 months into the year, and we've got about 40% of our budgeted expenditures spent at $23,757,311. I think our department heads are still doing a good job of maintaining an eye on keeping the expenditures within reason and not spending money on things that are not necessary. So they're still being frugal and taking care of the taxpayer dollar there. Our fund balance is continuing to grow year over year, and our cash is continuing to grow year over year at about the same rate. In the finance department, we were pretty busy in December. There's a lot of year-end reporting that has to be done, and so we got our RGLF report done, the hotel motel report done, the landfill report done, all of our bond disclosure reporting for the end of the year, including the Tanner bonds. We got that done. There will be another report that'll have to be done in March for our bonds, but a lot of that information was reported on this report, so we won't have to duplicate all of it. And this year, for the first time, we had to file not for the first time, but the first time in quite a while, we had to file a single audit with the federal government. And that's because of the CARES money. It was considered a grant, and it carried us over the $750,000 threshold for a single audit. So we'll be continuing to experience that for the next few years with the ARPA money. It will also kick us into a single audit, so we'll have to do that over the next few years. But that's the summary of the financials, if anybody has any specific questions.
Just a comment that you had stated, expenditures are right at 40%, which 5 months into the fiscal year, that's exactly where they need to be. And then we're at nearly 57% realized on the revenue side, which shows that we may continue to be another fiscal year over on the revenue side in the budget if we continue that trend. So from that balancing act, it looks really good.
Yeah.
I just had a couple questions, Alicia. Like was just mentioned, the year-to-date should be something a little less than 50%, and so I just looked at that column. The only one that stood out to me was the, under public safety, 800 megahertz telecommunications line at 210 out of 216. What is that?
That's the fee that we pay to WARS to use the radios, and it's an annual fee. So we pay it kind of like we do our insurance. We pay it all at one time.
Okay.
So that's all we'll have to pay this year unless we have some damages to some WARS towers or something that we have to do some repair and maintenance type stuff on.
Okay. On the schedule of cash balances, we've got the E911 telephone fund, and I noticed compared to other years, we're at like 2 times as much at 826,000 something, where it used to be 426. Can you explain that?
Well, we didn't spend our budget last year, so that helped. It's really a staffing situation where we can't keep all the seats filled, but we're experiencing that around the county. So it's not anything specific to 911. They just have their own fund in not being able to fully staff alleviates the salaries out of the budget, which in turn gives you more money in your fund balance and in your cash balance.
Okay.
I think we would rather have those seats filled.
Yeah. Okay. And then the next line, the ARPA, I just wondered if that 11.6 was what the final amount, is that all that we can expect to get?
I don't know.
Don't know. Yeah.
That was the first amount of the funding.
Yeah. And
we had a first amount of funding with CARES and were promised more and never received more. So I would hate to say at this point that I'm sure that we're going to get more, because I'm not sure if we're going to get any more.
Okay.
But the second round should come in May or June, so hopefully by then we'll kind of know what the situation is with that second round.
Thank you.
All right, there's no further questions. We'll move into the actual items for the meeting tonight. We'll start under the financial session. We have Judge Tom Palmer here. Welcome. Happy New Year. He is 9.1 and has a juvenile court grant for us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. What the request is, and to kind of back up and to tell you something about this, just because it's something I'm very proud of and what we do in juvenile court, is we have 2 accountability courts, which people think of as drug courts, is what we traditionally call them. One is the family treatment court. What the family treatment court works with is for children who have been removed from the parent's home as a result of abuse and neglect, and specifically because of abuse caused by addiction to substances, illegal substances. And those are mostly defects cases, although they can be other cases. In those, the parents then have a reunification plan under federal law to try and get the kids back in the home. And the family treatment court takes those parents and places them within a drug court program that we oversee and requires them to go to substance abuse treatment, individual therapy. They are drug screened often 4 times a week. Ms. Story, who oversees that for us, actually does weekend screens on a random basis to pull them on Saturdays and even Sundays. And it's a 12 to 18-month program. It can be longer for that if they do not comply with everything in the program. And then sometime within that program, and hopefully very early in that program, we're able, because of the oversight we have over the parents and the progress in them, to get the children back in the home while we're still drug testing the parents, while we're still getting them the treatment, while we're getting the children involved in treatment for being children who have received trauma from being in a home with an addicted parent. And so the outcome of that would then be a graduation where the parents have been clean, we know of, for 18 months. They've completed treatment. The children have treatment. We've overseen them in the home with the parent, and we're convinced as well as we could be that this is going to be a stable, loving home for these children. And that is opposed to what we've done for years, and is very frustrating to me, is we have 6 months of screens. We have a limited amount of oversight because of the regulations within DFACS and the federal law, where basically once we have a certain amount of minimum participation, then the case under the law has to close and we don't have oversight. And then 6 to 8 months from then, I see them again because they have relapsed in their addiction. Their kids are back into care, and we're talking about then terminating the parents' rights and putting them up for an adoption. And it's just a terrible no-win situation for the children in this case. So that's what the Family Treatment Court is. The Wellness Court program is a mental health accountability court for children. In my time in juvenile court, I've seen this revolving door of children with mental health issues ending up in short-time treatment and then hospitalizations and then release from hospitalizations and go back into the home, and there's not a continuation of the treatment, and then there's another eruption and they're hospitalized again. I see children who are hospitalized 4 or 5 times for periods of anywhere from a week to 30 to 60 days, and they're back in the home, and this becomes a cycle. And so what this is, our accountability court, is we have grant funding for individual therapy to continue with one therapist. We have grant funding for family therapy to bring the parents and the children in to evidence-based family therapy to continue with one therapist until they are released. We have money to pay for parenting, evidence-based parenting, to get the parents involved in a parenting program to learn not only just how to parent, but how to parent a child who has these mental health issues. Because what we found out is even good parents react completely wrong to what their child needs within the home. And so this, again, is to stop that revolving door. In our family treatment court, 2 years ago, we had 8 participants. Now we have 34. By the end of this month, we should have 4 more. I've got 2 that we're going to approve probably Thursday. We have 2 more that we're looking at and should be approved by the end of this month. That has all been going on during COVID. Our wellness court program, we completely revamped that and started it as a new mental health court. As of July 1, we have 6 participants in that. And when I see that court 2 weeks from now, we'll probably have 2 more in that, and should be by the end of the year, or end of the fiscal year, have 15 in that. Because of the success we've had, and I do think it's a success because every other family treatment court and wellness court type of program that I've seen around the state during COVID's numbers have gone down. Ours have gone up. And again, Ms. Story, since she has taken over in the last 18 months, has gone from 8 participants to probably by the end of this month, 38 participants in our family treatment court program. Of the 32 that we have right now, 34, 26 of those parents have their children in the home with them. They are not in a foster home. They're in the home with the parents because they have had long-term success in both their clean screens and then also their treatment. And so with those, we talk a lot with who gives us the grants. The grants come from the Council of Accountability Court judges. It's paid for the federal government through the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. And so we talked to them about, where do we stand compared to other courts? What should we be getting as funding? And it was actually recommended to us to, in mid-year, apply for a change from the original funding of part-time case managers. For both of these courts, Ms. Story is a full-time grant-funded employee of the county who is the coordinator of both. And then she has 2 part-time case managers who oversees both of these accountability courts. And so we had the recommendation, apply for a change to full-time because your numbers justify that and your increases justify it. So we did that, we were approved for those, and that is what we're now asking for, is the county to accept those 2 grants, which, as they state right now, would be through the end of the year, but then we apply every year for the grant. That's true of this grant. It has been since I've been the judge. We apply every year for it. We've never been turned down, but of course that's a possibility that we can, but our numbers, again, we were recommended to do this and then we were approved for it. So we would again apply for these to be full-time positions for the fiscal year beginning July and plan to extend it. When we hire these people, and this is true of Ms. Story and it's true of everybody we've hired, they understand, they're told first up before they apply, this is a grant-funded program. If the grant ends, your job will end, and then the county attorney has prepared for us, and we always have them sign something agreeing to that when they're actually hired. That it's grant-funded. If the grant goes away, the job goes away also. So I'm asking you then to approve what would be accepting the grant and then increasing these 2 positions from part-time to full-time. I'll answer any questions you've got. Ms. Story's here also to answer any questions.
And I guess you can't give any more solid answer. I was just wondering, and you touched on it probably as well as you could, as far as foresight into the next budget cycle and whether they would continue, the council would continue to fund at the full-time position.
Yes, I mean, well, one thing, I serve on actually the committee for grant approval with the accountability court judges, so I see the process. And again, I can't approve it, sometime, and a lot of it has to do with the state budget and whether the state continues to approve it. If we keep the numbers that we're having, and the numbers are the same from the state, and I don't expect this administration is very much behind accountability courts. The numbers, and there have been studies of this, show that this is not only the best way to treat substance abuse and the problems of substance abuse, but it is the most fiscally responsible way of treating it. The savings there have been millions of dollars saved by the state in using this as the means. And the reason is it puts together the force of the court. You do it or you will be punished, including incarceration, with evidence-based treatment. This is the way to solve substance abuse, is to test them frequently so that you know whether they're using or not and make them go to the treatment that's recommended on a national and state level. And so that's a long answer to, no, I can't say, but I don't see any change in this. But if it does, when we created this, and I asked for this commission to approve the original grant, I said, I don't intend for this to cost the taxpayers of Carroll County $1, and it doesn't. Everything is paid for by the grant. The treatment I'm talking about is paid for by grant funds. The drug testing is paid for by grant funds. The people that do it, I don't have an extra clerk. I don't get any additional for this, and I don't expect it to. If the grant doesn't continue, then unfortunately this program would end.
I want to thank you for the work that you do, and one of the things you touched on was trying to have the cohesive family unit stay together. Now, obviously, if something is a belligerent home life, you don't want the child in that, but you see in society today the breakdown of the family chain, and directly correlates to a lot of the problems we see in society. So when someone has an issue that you can mitigate and try to keep the family together, because ultimately the parents need their children and the children need their parents, unless it's insinuating circumstances where there's violence or so forth. So I appreciate the program portion that's trying to do that, to get people over a hurdle and keep the children, if they can be, with their parents, because that's the best nature for them, hopefully, in the long run. And it just seems to me everywhere you turn in society, that is the breakdown in our culture right now. So it's good to see that you're trying to treat by keeping them together if they can be.
I agree. I mean, the point of the program is if they have to be removed because of some danger, to make sure that you control the danger and get them back in the house. But you're exactly right. The greatest thing to me about this program is we've applied it to families before the child is removed, when we identify the substance abuse, but we don't have the danger yet. And so some of these, 26 families where the children are in the home, the children were never removed from the home. Or sometimes they're simply with a grandparent for a few days or a few weeks even, until we can get the parents clean and within the system, rather than being in a foster home that's two counties away and they lose touch with their family and all like that. That's what we're trying to prevent.
Are y'all good with putting this on a consent agenda for this evening? Okay, great.
Thank y'all very much. I appreciate everything you do for us. I really do.
Okay, item 9.2, I'm going to call Chief Deputy, well, no, it's not Brad Robinson. We got Ken Reeves tonight.
Standing in for him tonight. We're requesting to purchase 10 vehicles fully equipped for a total of $498,000. Vehicles is hard to come by, and y'all know that. So we really need some. So we're requesting that y'all approve it.
Any questions? I know we normally do this in September, but because the lack of
They hadn't
commitment.
They hadn't been available.
So this is a yearly expenditure for the Sheriff's Department. Y'all good with putting this on a
That's
consent agenda?
They are available.
To order, yes. I don't know when we will receive them now.
Right.
Captain Reeves, we talked about the extended warranty, and you had explained that so far you had not run into a lot of problems with the automobiles, and the service department over at Public Works was doing a great job in handling that. So that's a good thing to hear, that we don't necessarily need to look down that road to spend more money in that area. So.
Right.
I'm good with consent agenda.
Okay, great. Thank you,
Good.
Ken.
Thank y'all.
9.3 is E911, a communications call station upgrade, and we have Clay Patterson here to go over those with us. It's actually 9.3 and 9.4. I'll just let you go ahead and stand at one time.
Oh, thank you. Let me scoot up here. Good afternoon. A couple of items for 911. I mean, they're kind of large items, but they're needed upgrades that we're due for. And I'll start with the first one, which is the Motorola documents that you're going to have in front of you. That's our emergency phone system. I know some people have been a little confused. We have so many different things in the county involved with Motorola and with our voice radio system, and then I myself have multiple service agreements with Motorola, but this one's specifically for our phone, emergency phone system, the software and the hardware that takes in the 911 calls, processes the calls, tells us whether the call is a 911 call or an admin line or a generic phone call. It's all the equipment that's included in that, and the software as well. We are expired on our current service agreement, and so anything that I would have to pay for if the hardware was to go down now would be just strictly out of budget. So it's time. I met with Alicia back in June of this past year, and we weighed the pros and cons and decided that we were going to wait till the end of the year to try to get this done. And so this upgrade is going to provide the center with all brand new hardware throughout the entire 12 consoles, all brand new CallWorks computers, and we're going to get the latest version of the software included in that upgrade. The agreement is good for 3 years for that price of $96,177, but because of the different, and I know Commissioner Chance is a fan of warranties, and I am as well, so I just brought that option with. They offer another 2-year extended warranty on the hardware, but it's for $9,383.38. I will say that I'm a fan of warranties, but I will leave that up to the board to determine whether or not y'all want to go with that. I'm just merely asking for at least for us to get the upgrade, and there's multiple reasons why that's going to also benefit us, not just from us having the latest version and the latest equipment, but also with the plans of the state of Georgia following Alabama and moving into the next gen 911 network. These upgrades are detrimental and are going to help us. And I'm ready to turn on text to 911. It's, again, every time I talk about it, I make sure the public knows that we're not utilizing it yet, but this system is able to, it saved me about $25,000 to $30,000 because it's capable of doing text to 911. I've already got all that done and complete, but it doesn't work the way we want it to work just because of some noises and things like that, and this newer version is going to assist us with that as well. As far as the recorder goes, we are also due for a very much needed upgrade. We've been operating with the same recorder since 2012. The server is currently 2 terabytes in size. We've already years ago went over that, and calls and radio transmissions are on thumb drives, multiple thumb drives, and we're now almost to 2 terabytes again. That recorder system has been operating for 10 years, 24/7, 365, and yes, we use that for open records requests, pulling all of our radio traffic, all of our phone calls, emergency and non. Radio, every transmission that goes through a radio, it's recorded, and then each console also has access to that in a limited version so that the dispatchers can have that as a backup if they miss something that an officer or someone on the telephone has said. And like I said, we're getting to the maximum capacity on that, and that computer system has just been running for 10 years. So that is looking at a total amount of $61,645. After that, we get a 1-year warranty with that, and that first year is included, of course, in the service agreement price. And after that, it was going to be $9,675 per year, which I'm currently paying that service fee to have them as we speak. We asked them if they could do any better on the service agreement after that first year, and I was able to get them to come down. They wouldn't go any longer on the warranty, but they did give us a 10% discount on the second year. So we would initially pay $61,645 for the full upgrade for the whole center, including new hardware and software, and then the second year would be $8,707. And then year 3 would continue with the originally stated service agreement price of $9,675. We are also looking at, because I met with Commissioner Chance, and I think this is a great idea, our current radio transmissions calls, everything that's being recorded is backed up on a secondary server, but it's backed up in-house. And we're not the only 911 center that does that. We found out yesterday that approximately 75% do that. I don't necessarily think that means it's right. So I spoke to Jacob Parson with IT yesterday, and I'm looking at buying, it's going to cost somewhere probably between $800 and $1,100, which I can have in the budget to buy a secondary server to be housed here at the courthouse off-site. And the company is going to point all of that stuff to that in case, God forbid, something was to happen to the 911 center. But for the purposes of, the future of 911 and where I'm trying to take it, these items are going to tremendously help, and not just to keep us up to date with the technology that we need, but it's also going to help with, and I will inform the commissioners about more over the next few years with the next gen 911 network. It's going to help us out tremendously, and with my goal of becoming a nationally accredited 911 center, and we will make that happen. So, any questions?
Mr. Patterson, thank you for meeting with me yesterday. Just to recap a couple things on the first portion with Motorola, I looked at the warranty information, and we talked about some of this when I was in your office. I personally thought the number was a little bit high, but with technology pieces, everything continues to increase every year. One of my concerns is, if you look in the verbiage in the service contracts, pretty much anything, if we tried to touch it, would void a warranty. They like to send their personnel out. Now, obviously, if the warranty ended after a certain period of time, our people could look at it. But one of my concerns is, what if something was on the teeter-tot or right out of warranty? They might be willing to come and make something good. As you state, we've got several contracts with Motorola. Also, the inflation is expected to continue for at least in the next foreseeable future, at least 18 months, 2 years from now. There's a labor shortage, everyone's fighting for labor, so when you look at, you take all that into consideration, I don't know that the number looks so high after all. So I personally would like to see the board approve the additional warranty. To recap on the event-tied portion, as you talked about with the 2 terabytes that we have currently that were about used up on that particular space on memory there, you stated we're going to be getting, I think, 6 terabytes, or that's what the vendor, and to your point, the different things that we've got coming in, texting capabilities and stuff that will happen, as you state, in the future, not currently, that's going to take up a lot more space. So I think these things are all definitely things that we need to look at, and not only what we need now, but trying to make good decisions and expending for the future so that you've got the resources that you need moving forward. So both of these look good to me, including the extended warranty.
So are we good with putting 9.3 with the warranty on a consent agenda? Okay, are we good with putting 9.4 on a consent agenda? Okay, great. Thank you, Clay.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move into 9. See, I missed 9.5. Okay, we don't have a 9.5. Okay, 9.6, elections and registration. I'm going to call Carroll and Driver to come up.
Good afternoon. We just wanted to request some additional funds for our travel and training to send the 3 staff members and 2 board members to training in March. So that would take about $6,086 to accomplish that. So what happened is 2 trainings, 2 conferences fell within the same fiscal year. And we didn't realize that when we were budgeting for this year. So that's all I have.
And Commissioners, we did put some money in contingency, so there's money to take care of this. Are y'all good with, good with putting on consent?
Yeah, thank you for your work. Y'all have a hard job sometimes finagling your budget. You don't know if someone's going to go out of office and an election pops up, or if you're going to have a runoff, and sometimes it's hard to budget that way. So y'all do a good job as best you can. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Clint.
We'll now move into the business session. 10.1 is the election of the vice chair, and we'll take care of that at the meeting this evening. 10.2 is an appointment to the Three Rivers Regional Commission. We currently have Kevin Hemphill is serving in that position and would like to serve again. So unless there's any nominations, are y'all good with reappointing him to the Three Rivers Commission? Okay, great. So we'll put 10.2 on consensus. All right, 10.3 is the WARS appointment, and Tim Pageant is currently holding that position, has agreed to serve again. Are you good with putting that on a consent agenda?
Yes.
Okay, great. So at this point, let me go back through our notes right here since we have such a short time. We are putting 9.1 on consent, which is the juvenile court grant. We're putting 9.2, the sheriff's office, 10 vehicles on a consent agenda. 9.3 with the warranty for the communications call station upgrade. 9.4 is the 911 recording system upgrade. And then the elections and registration funds to travel. And 10.2, which is the appointment of Three Rivers Regional Commission. And 10.3, the appointment for WAR. So we will have zoning tonight and appointment of vice chair at the meeting. Good. Okay, at this point, I'll adjourn the work session.